Devon is a human design expert. Not going to go in detail into how long she's been studying this, but it's a very, very long time. And she actually studied with the founder of human design. And so she knows all of it. That is how I met. That is how we're all here. It's because I found Devon because I wanted human design reading and it changed my life. And so all of this happened because of Devon. So Devon tonight is going to talk to us about how we can work with our unique energy imprint and learn symptoms and distortions of our energy centers and how to implement practical tools and frequency-based healing. So with that, Devon, where are you?
Hey, can you see me?
Yeah,
now we can.
There you
are.
hello,
beautiful.
Hi.
Hey guys. I love your little setup there. Should we wait like a couple minutes just so people can jump on? Okay. Maybe I'll pull up my screen.
Oh, do we need to make you a host?
Let me see if I can share.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to make me a host. Yeah.
Okay. So the deal is if you're the host, it ends up being you're the host. So just let people in when you see that they need to come in.
Okay.
You just accept them. It'll just.
Will there be a separate recording for this so we can? Okay. Cool.
Yep. All right. So I'm going to make you the host now. So the only thing you have to do is just pay attention to when people pop on and just accept and just allow.
That will be fun. Okay.
You're in, you're not in, you're in.
Okay, cool. I'm just going to put in the chat while we get started where to get your free chart so people have it in the chat. I'll have it on the screen as well, but it might just be easier to click. So for all of you on now, if you already don't have your human design chart, there is a free software called mybodygraph.com and you can just look up your chart. They have all this free information as well. But for this in particular, we just want to have that visual of your chart up. So you can reference what we're talking about and it will be very easy because it's a visual system and we'll have slides up and things like that. And then after this, you can, go through the free information and stuff. Do you guys have your charts up, girls?
I'm going to pull mine up.
I'm posting that you are talking right now. Get people on here because they are going to want to know.
Yeah.
Everyone always wants to know about human design, so they better get on here.
That's so good.
Okay, present. You guys see that? Wait, hold on. It's a little wacky. Give me a second. Okay. There it is.
Yeah, that's perfect. We see it.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Yeah, I want to pull up my chart. Do you have your chart?
And because I've obviously talked to you guys about certain things, if people have questions, do you mind like looking at the chat and like if anybody has any good ones, let me know. I'll try to keep a look at it, but it might be a little confusing.
Yeah, we can do that.
Sure.
Absolutely.
I have my chart up.
Nice. I remember both of yours just because of my photographic memory. Not every detail, but enough.
I know. I love it when you talk to me like I'm a chart.
I know, right? I do too. I do too.
Chart numbers.
You know me so well.
Channels. Great.
Well,
the human design. People are so into like therapy, but really they just need a human design expert.
Wait, does it say where do I let people in or not? It doesn't say people are coming in.
It'll pop up.
They should just pop up at the top of the screen and you'll see them.
Okay. Just want to make. Oh, okay, there it is. Okay, wait. But it popped up and then it went away.
Oh, that probably means that maybe
got it. Got it. Trudy. Oh. Hey, Trudy.
Perfect. You know what you're doing.
Okay. John Murray. I know him.
Is that your chart?
That's my chart now.
So it's exactly 7. So I guess we could get started with I just like know certain people are coming, so I didn't want to like jump in too fast, but Okay.
Devon, it's been a minute since you've been teaching human design. This is a big deal.
Mhm.
So this is actually the first time I've taught in maybe 2 years. I've done readings. I've done one-on-one stuff since then. But it's first time, yeah, it's the first time I've been teaching.
How do you feel?
Well, good. I feel good about it. It was interesting to go back like through, because I used to teach workshops like regularly. And I had just hundreds and hundreds of slides and graphics and information. So I was going through here, it like kind of did my head in, because I was like going through all the old information and was like, oh my God, and like trying to take like bits and pieces to make it simple and not overwhelming. And obviously like there's only so much you can talk about in 45 minutes, so it's like was trying to make it simple and practical and all that good stuff. And then obviously kind of write my own stuff as well and not stay with just kind of the archaic older types of human design. But
If you go
Okay.
5 over, 5, 10 over, it's fine.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
We're kind of heading up to the hour of each person, so that's totally fine.
Okay, cool. Alrighty. So to begin, if you haven't already, get your free chart at mybodygraph.com so you can keep it up as a reference when we go over this material. This software is awesome. I actually worked for mybodygraph.com for 3 years. And it's an amazing chart library system where you can just keep looking up people in your life and add them to your library and continue to go back. And there is free material that you can look at after this to reference the material on different topics like your type strategy, inner authority, and open center conditioning. So in today's discussion, we're going to talk about, what is human design? Like, where is it coming from? What are we going to look at today? And also, what is Healy? What is amazing is that they are both frequency-based systems or applications. And if everybody wouldn't mind muting so it doesn't interfere with the recording. Thank you. We'll talk about the 9 energy center dynamics and the difference of how that energy is going to work in your life. And then an introduction to the awareness centers. So the awareness centers in human design are our intuition, our mind, and our emotions. And those are big ones. So we're going to break those down in more detail because we won't have time to go super deep in all 9 centers, but I will give you guys overviews of that. I'll recommend some tools and tips at home for healing. And then also recommend different Healy programs, the individualized microcurrent frequencies based off of the different topics that we're going to cover with that. So I just want to share just a little bit about me and some disclaimers with this work. Obviously, my intention for this is that humanity just needs healing. I've been working in the healing world or energy-based work for over a decade now. And when the pandemic hit and I was finally kind of taking a break from the work that I was doing at the time, the simplest revelation I had was just humanity just needs healing. And it doesn't matter what modality we use. It's just when we are healing and we feel more ourselves, we have so much more to bring to the world and we have so much more compassion for other people. So a little bit about me with human design. I was introduced to human design in 2013. I was traveling the world at the time, really trying to make sense of my own reality. And through that, when I found human design, it was like everything just started to make sense. So I deep dived headfirst into human design and training. I studied professionally for 4 years as a professional, like a guide to teach workshops, as a professional analyst, and also as a professional business consultant. And I've worked with hundreds of people all over the world across about 6 continents. So the only continent I haven't worked with is Antarctica. So if you have anybody there that let me know so I can hit the map. A little bit of disclaimers just about this work is that human design and also Healy are just, human design is one system modality. So we will be talking about symptoms and dynamics and things like that, but it is not intended to like diagnose or treat or cure anything. It's just for contemplation and integration in our lives. So my advice to get the most out of this experience today is that And when something resonates with you, when you feel it in your body, when it hits a chord, when you feel some kind of emotion or resonance with that, take that in, contemplate it in your life, write it down. If you get one thing that resonates with you today, I did my job. If you get more than that, then that's awesome. If things don't feel right, or isn't relevant to your life, just let it go, just drop it. So is that good? And if you have any questions, I want this to be a dialogue. And a big part of my design is that I am essentially here to be like, my wisdom is here to be pulled out through questions and through invitation. So if something's coming up, I want you to just talk in the chat, say what you feel, ask some questions, and there will be some time at the end to do some Q&A. So what I love is that back in the day when I was teaching workshops all the time, this was a quote that I used in all of the workshops. And then it's also a quote that is used with Healy. So I thought that's really awesome. So it's by Nikola Tesla. If you wish to understand the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibrations. So we have human design, and we'll talk about Healy as well. A lot of you here might be here specifically because you've been working with Healy and you want to understand human design. Other people listening know about human design or want to learn more, but haven't heard about Healy. One of my favorite things to do with systems is to integrate and put things together. So for the last decade, I've been taking different pieces from different toolboxes and trying to figure out how can they work together. Human design alone is an incredibly rich system that you could study for the rest of your life, and it would never get old. And at the same time, there's other things that can support healing and support self-understanding through that. So human design is the science of differentiation. It's how we understand how our unique energy works, how our frequency works. What do we transmit? What do we receive? How are we dancing around in life? And how do we work with the energy that we are born with instead of pushing up against resistance and trying to be what we're not? Now, Healy is a microcurrent medical device using frequency therapy to support that bioenergetic balance. So as we go through different things in human design, can everybody mute, please? When we go through different elements of human design, I'll recommend some Healy programs that can support your frequency with that. So human design is a synthesis of ancient wisdom and also modern science. So we have, you don't have to know anything about these other systems because it is a synthesis of it's a new system that's rooted in old ancient wisdom. So there is astrology, the chakra system, the Kabbalah, the Chinese I Ching. It's also talking about quantum physics. So how our energy is working, biochemistry, and our genetics. So back here, these are the 4 types up here. We're not going to go too deep into that. We're going to really work on the foundational energy mechanics of the centers because that builds on the types. So when we look at this wheel here, this is the basic foundational graph of human design. So you can see here, there is an astrology calculation here in the wheel. Then we have the Chinese I Ching with all these 64 numbers, which are gates in all of these 9 centers, which come from the chakras, but it's not the traditional chakra system. Human design is different. And then we have the hexagram, which has a 1-on-1 correlation with the genetic code in our DNA. So when we understand these traits and dynamics and frequencies and work with them, it actually has a direct impact on our DNA and on our health. So when we look at these 9 centers, they hold different traits inside. There's 36 lines connecting the channels, which is our life force energy. And yeah, we go on and on about the details, but I just wanted to show you guys where this is coming from. So what is Healy? Healy is an at-home wearable wellness device that uses customized microcurrent applications and our scalar energy to work with our bioenergetic field. So in human design, we are also working with our aura, our bioenergetic field. We're working in harmony with our unique imprint in this life. And Healy is something that can also assist the bioenergetic field. I have it right here. I have bioenergetic defense program running. And today we're going to focus on the dynamics on the 9 energy centers. So who here is familiar with their human design chart or the energy mechanics of the centers? No?
We are.
Ashley and Kristen. Awesome. So I want to give you guys just like a little download about how this energy is flowing in the body graph, because the way that it is flowing. Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to get this up and running. Okay. So at the top, we have the head. Did somebody raise their hand? Somebody have a question?
Sorry, I know my chart. My camera's broken, by the way. It also be on camera. It's not working, but
Okay.
I raised my hand and lowered it.
Okay. Somebody else have a hand raised? Okay. So,
Hi. Oh,
okay, there you go. I thought so.
oh, I'm sorry. I was just trying to just mention about the manifested generator when you ask, but you could continue. Sorry for interrupting.
Okay. Well, today we're not going to talk too much about the types. You can learn about that for free on my body graph. I also have a bunch of free YouTube videos and an online course. So at the end, I'm going to offer some gifts for you guys if you want to take advantage of them after this. But basically the foundation of these centers are what makes up the types. So when you're looking at your chart, you're going to have some that are colored in and some that are white. We're going to go deeper into that on the next slide. But here, whatever's colored in is making up the foundation of your energy body, of your energy type, and how you are designed to function and thrive in this life. So when we're looking at the centers, we have at the top, we have a pressure center on the head. It's our pressure to know what the hell is going on in life and to find inspiration. And at the bottom, we have this root center, which is our fuel and drive for life. So the head is pressuring us to make sense of our life, and the root is giving us fuel for life to push forward, to drive, to evolve. When we go above the root, we have the life force center, which is the sacral. So as a manifesting generator, I know there's a few of you on here. Any generator or manifesting generator is going to have this sacral defined because they are the life force of the planet. They are generating this juicy, fertile life force and supplying it to the planet. Now we have the awareness centers. We have the spleen, the ajna, and the solar plexus, which we're going to go way deeper into the details toward the end of this. The spleen is our intuition. The ajna is how we conceptualize and reflect and make sense of our life. And the solar plexus is our emotional wave. It's the most dominant and powerful center in the body graph. In the center, we have the G center, which is all about our spiritual heart, our love, identity, and direction in life. And the heart or ego is our willpower, self-worth, and how we deal with the material world. So let's talk about this frequency exchange. Is everybody taking a look at their chart to see what they have colored in and what they have white? Is everybody taking a look? Okay. So this is one chart example. It is very rare for somebody to have 9 centers all colored in. That's very rare. It's also very rare, about 1% of the population, for people to have all centers undefined or open or white, and that would be the reflector type. So let's talk about this frequency dynamic, because I want you guys to understand this, because this alone can create a huge awareness in your life. So where we are defined, this is actually my chart as an example, where we are defined, where we're colored in, this is our true nature. This means that we have life force energy that we are transmitting out of our bioenergetic field, our own frequency, whether we're aware of it or not. Sometimes we're more aware of it than others based off the intricacy of the design. So this is what we give to other people. It's what we broadcast. It's kind of like the signal or the lighthouse that our body and our soul are giving out. Now, this is a consistent, reliable form of personal energy. So in human design, the theory with human design is to trust where you're defined. Trust where you have energy consistent, because it's always going to be there. It's always going to protect you. It's always going to be available. So this is essentially how you're designed to function, or the student that comes in to learn about everything else. So when we go over to the other side, the undefined centers, everything that is white, this is our nurture. This is where we are designed to be nurtured and supported by other people. And this is also where we pick up stuff from other people. So take a look at some of the centers that are open and think back into your life when you've literally had experiences where you felt one way, then you're around a friend or a family member, and you can drastically feel an energy difference because of what you're picking up. Okay. So in these open centers, they not only receive energy, but they also amplify energy. So let's take a second and think about a sponge. When a sponge is dry, it's just sitting there, it's chilling. But the minute you put water on it, or the minute you put something else on it, it expands and it becomes something different. So having 7 open centers, I've noticed that I've had to really wring out and clean out my sponge when I am around certain people, environments, work, different things like that, because I'm picking up and very sensitive to the environment. Now, because this is inconsistent and sometimes unreliable, because it's changing so much, this is where we can get like totally thrown, disoriented, and think something's wrong with us, or be really confused about what we're experiencing if we're not aware of it. So human design is simply bringing awareness to these frequency dynamics. Now, eventually, you know, in these areas, even though they can be big pain points in our life, it's essentially where we are designed to learn, and it's where we're here to be very wise. So when we start to go into some of these dynamics in a minute, and I start to pinpoint some of the symptoms that come up with it, remember, it's also where we're here to be very wise about life. And eventually, when you go into career and business study of human design, or that kind of coaching and consulting, our white centers and where we're flexible is actually where we can be really smart to make money and succeed in life, because there's that flexibility and wisdom of how we process that information. So just remember, when something is colored in, we have a consistent internal resource of how we process and work with that specific energy in our life. When it's open, it can be amplified and distorted from our environment and totally take us away from who we are. Okay, does anybody have any questions about that? So I did this little write-up on Instagram. It's another little synopsis. If you want to follow me on Instagram, you can download or save this image or share it if you want to. But our colored in centers, when you're looking at your chart, this is your personal power. And after working with so many people, a lot of times things that people thought was wrong with them was actually an internal source of power that they just misunderstood. So human design is a language of life, and it's a way to explain life. And when we can understand it in these ways, we can learn how to harness and use and embody the energy that we were born with. And it's also a frequency that we transmit out, and it's how we impact. The undefined centers are reservoirs of our wisdom of life experience. It's where we're receptive and fluid. It can feel totally like a sponge in our environment, and it's where we go to school. I know somebody raised their hand. Do you want to speak and ask a question? See a hand raised. I would say your name, but it just says Zoom user. So if you want to. Okay. So our shadow, today we're going to talk about shadow dynamics. And this is basically what happens when our energy gets out of whack or out of balance. It can make us feel sick or overwhelmed when we don't know what's going on. We can also feel like something's wrong with us. We can have a difficult time making decisions or trusting ourselves. And we also may internalize conditioning influences and think that it's who we really are. So human design, through this practice of understanding, is about a deconditioning process. Now, conditioning is not inherently bad. It's here to nurture us in our lives, but it can get us in trouble when we're amplified or think that it's us. Conditioning forces are not just other people, it's also our environment, our diet, and our lifestyle as well, and sleeping, all that kind of stuff. So this is where it gets fun. So these are general shadows of humanity based off the openness in your chart. So I want you to just take a second and look through some of these strategies that can come out and see what resonates with you. Look at a couple of them and say, yeah, I think that definitely happens in my life. Now, I want you to remember that these are shadows of humanity. So it doesn't mean that anything's wrong with you. It just means that you may be internalizing, amplifying, and distorting energy from the environment and misinterpreting it in your life. So this is basically our stress and our suffering from the open centers. So for example, this always hurrying, try to relieve pressure. I have an open root center and I know this stuff and it still happens, right? So it's just about bringing awareness to it and shifting back into that wisdom. So when I was making these slides and it wasn't finished yet, I could feel this pressure and I wanted to relieve it. And I was hurrying and trying to do it. And then I kind of had a moment where I realized I can only do as much as I can. And I slept on it. And then the next day I felt way more calm and I was able to do it without feeling so much pressure. Another big one is of the ego center. And this is very common. The percentages on here, are the percentage of the population that have these centers open. Another huge one is the ego or the willpower center, and it is not feeling good enough. So really feeling like we're not good enough. So we try to prove our worth, or we try to show up more, we overcompensate, overgive, take less money than what we're worth, that kind of thing. This is like a huge symptom on the planet, is not feeling good enough. Now, when we talk about these shadows, we say, in human design, they say it's the not self. It basically just means it's not true. So any of these things you're looking at, if you notice that you do them, you're like, oh, I've definitely overcompensated and don't really feel good about myself. Then the simple remedy to that is, it's not true. It's not me. It's just a symptom of this energy that's been out of balance, or maybe I wasn't aware of it. So human design is just bringing our attention back so that we can catch ourselves and that we can move forward with more awareness. Now, I know a couple people have raised their hands. Does anybody have any questions? I'm just going to stop for a second if anybody wants to chime in.
I don't have a question, but you're mic dropping all over the place, and I find this extremely valuable. So thank you.
Oh, thanks. I thought you meant my mic was having issues at first. I was like, oh no.
No. Super, super valuable information.
Thanks, Ashley. It's life-changing. I mean, I spent 7 years like radically deconditioning this shit and just watching it come up in my life. And I think I was so devoted and dedicated to human design because it was like, it took me in and it didn't let me go. And then I finally tried to let it go, and I took a couple years of break. I mean, I still, thought about it, but I just not as much because I was so devoted for so long. But it totally cellularly changed me. I remember, like, I even looked different after being, practicing these different strategies and becoming aware of it. So I remember in the beginning of my experience, a couple years in, like I have an open ego, open willpower. So when things are open, it just means they're inconsistent. So they can either go like really low or really high, and they just change and they're fluid based off the environment, So when we try to trust that and make decisions out of those areas that are inconsistent, and get us into trouble. So for example, I was at a writing workshop and it was in total alignment for me. I knew that I was supposed to be there. I loved writing so much. And it was the first time I was writing with a group of women, and we were all sharing, and I was invited to share something I wrote. Now, all of a sudden my mind started telling me, you're not good enough. You're not good enough. All this shadow shit, right? That started coming up, all this shadow shit. And a couple years before, I might not have shared because I didn't feel good enough. And these things were starting to come up. And then I had this moment while it was going on, and right before I was about to share, and I said, okay, Devon, are you in alignment? Were you invited here? Is this right? Does your body feel right? Blah, 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 blah. And it was yes, 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 yes. And I said, okay, well, then I'm going to share. And I'm not going to listen to that shit that my mind's telling me. I'm not going to listen to this shadow. I'm not going to let it take down my life. So I ended up sharing and getting that out, and being recognized and supported by the group of women was life-changing for me. So knowing that these shadows come up, and knowing that you're not alone, and that there's nothing wrong with you, and you just need to be aware of them, that it's a common thing, it can totally change your life. So has anybody had experiences like that where they've kind of caught their mind and recognized that what they were thinking was like a shadow or something that wasn't really in alignment with who they were, or kind of broken through those types of patterns or barriers?
Yeah, that happens often. Does happen often.
Awesome. So I would invite all of you to just look through some of this, see, has this come up for me? Maybe write it down. I'm going to dive deeper into the spleen, the ajna, and the emotional center, because these are huge ones. And so I'm going to go like way deeper into those. But I wanted you guys to really have like a general overview of like, this is what's going on. And this is also, keep in mind, a very classical way that human design is taught. So these are like classical words that the founders used in all these years ago when it first came out. And there's something, you know, the frequency of how it was transmitted in the beginning is really powerful, in my opinion. So at home healing tips. So these are simple recommendations that I have when it comes to open centers. When you're looking at your chart and you feel really sensitive or overwhelmed, you're recognizing that these things are influencing your life in a bad way. One, have compassion for yourself. There's nothing wrong with you. We all experience it, right? So when we remember that as human beings, it doesn't matter how long you've been doing the work, it still comes up. I've been doing this stuff a long time and I still watch these shadows come up. I just bounce out of it quicker. And maybe something that would have taken me down for a lot longer, I'm able to shift out and you know, grow from it quicker through that awareness. So be kind and be gentle with yourself, and also have compassion for other people, because a lot of times you don't know that these dynamics are going on with other people. That's why I loved human design so much, was that I was able to really understand the people in my life and also offer that coaching and consulting and recognizing for people to empower them, you know, so that they didn't feel bad about these things, but instead empowered for who they are. The next is self-care. So when it comes to open center conditioning, that full sponge, what do we do with a full sponge? We're not going to leave it just like getting the whole counter and kitchen wet and leaking everywhere, right? We're going to clean it. We're going to shake it off. We're going to shower it off. We're going to connect with nature. We're going to sleep on it, write it out, dance it out, scream it out, cry it out, walk it out, like just move the energy. You know, it's like put your feet in the ground, take a bath, throw a bag of Epsom salts in there, you know, like just do whatever you can to let go of the stuff that we pick up on. And maybe create some kind of ritual around it, you know, through that sensitivity. The next is self-trust. The whole core of human design is self-trust. So in your chart, when you go to my body graph, you will have an inner authority, which is part of your definition. Start to trust that instead and see what happens in your life. It will change your life. And trust your body over what your mind thinks, because your body knows what's up. Okay. And then lastly, connect, like share your experiences with other people. Because when we recognize that we're not the only one having those experiences, it takes the relief and the pressure of us beating ourselves up for what we experience. Remember, you're not alone in any of these shadows or open conditioning. And stay close to people who see you and honor you and respect you for who you are. Now, when it comes to Healy, how we can support ourselves through frequency, what is going on? Okay. These are 3 general programs I recommend to everybody for open center support. So if you have a Healy or you're interested in learning about a Healy, these are different frequencies that can support your open sensitivity. In the middle one, the bioenergetic defense, the protection programs are by far my favorite. I am a crazy sensitive sponge. When I first got the Healy a couple years ago, the sleeping protection changed my life. I love wearing, I'm actually doing a general protection right now because I noticed that like on Zoom and different things like that, I can just get energetically wiped out because of my sensitivity. In the job and sleep programs, I did this because of the stress and the sleep, because when we are sleeping better or we have more positive thoughts about our mental stuff or the mental shadows that come up, it can really affect everything else. And then obviously the gold cycles in Healy, because the gold, I mean, it's gold, right? I love the gold programs. Release is excellent. If you pick up a lot of stuff or you feel like you're really out of balance or lots coming up. And one of my favorites is Pure, which is really great for like any kind of environmental kind of stuff that's going on with us, like diet, sleep, all that kind of stuff. So this is generally what I recommend for open center support. Obviously there's probably more, but I'm going to go deeper into programs for specific centers in a moment. So anybody have any questions before we go a little bit deeper into the centers themselves? Because we don't have that much time. Okay, I gotta jump through this. All right, so let's talk about the awareness centers. My friend Andy, who spoke earlier, I hope that you guys got to see him. He gave me advice to just focus on a couple centers, because I once taught a 2-hour workshop just on the solar plexus. So that's how much information human design offers. So the reason I picked the awareness centers is simply because we are aware of them. It's that simple. The splenic center is our survival instincts. It's the oldest ancient awareness system, and it is what keeps us healthy and alive. And it's the quiet little subtle hits that we get to protect ourselves. Now, the ajna is twice as loud as our intuition. So think about a time in your life where your intuition was like, that's not good for me. That person's like, I probably shouldn't do that. But then the mind's like, but really though, and just totally interfere with your intuition, right? I know it's happened to all of us. And then the solar plexus, our emotions, our emotional intelligence is twice as loud as the mind. So, we may feel, our emotions can rock everything, right? Our emotions and that kind of chaos, or the emotional waves that we experience, can overpower this awareness. So first, I want to talk about the spleen center. The spleen center, the biological correlation and function of the spleen center, just according to human design, obviously, this is one system's perspective of it. This is our immune system. So it keeps us alive. It's the hits we get. Don't walk down that dark alley. Don't eat that thing, right? Those just in the moment awareness to keep us alive. That is its basic function. And it is the oldest. And it's very animalistic. So if you want to understand the spleen, watch an animal, watch when they get frightened, watch when they're, that's the spleen. It's highly alert and it's active. It's like wants to keep us alive and safe. So it's connected to the immune system, the lymphatic system, obviously the spleen, T cells, all that good stuff. And I'm going to recommend some Healy programs and some other things for the spleen. So the symptoms are literally ignoring our hits, our hunches. It's also, because it's about health and awareness, the shadow here is a fear of letting go of things, even if they're bad for us. So we could be totally aware that something is bad for us, but we have a really hard time letting go of that. It can also come up as a lack of feeling good in the body and being completely stuck in survival fear of the past, the future, and also failure. There's a lot more I could say about that, but the best way to take care of your spleen is to listen to it. Listen to your hits, whether or not it's open or defined. Listen to your intuition. It's always going to be moment by moment. It's going to be in the moment, in primal awareness inside of you to keep you healthy. Now, Healy programs that I recommend for the spleen obviously would be immune system first, because it is tied to our immune system. So the more we trust ourselves, the stronger our immune system. The more we love ourselves, it's proven, the stronger our immune system. The stronger our immune system, the better we are at fighting things off and the more aware we are of other things. Obviously, some of you have seen the blood analysis video of doing this immune system program on Healy, where they test the blood before and after the immune system, and it had a radical transformation on the blood. I'd also recommend the bioenergetic boost, and in the meridians program, the lymphatic system and the spleen. Obviously, anything that's going to keep you your immune system supported. So the ajna center, like we said before, is louder than the spleen, and this is our self-reflected consciousness. It's how we make sense of our life over time. Now, in human design, they say that the mind is never a great place to make decisions. It's great to understand our life, to analyze, to give outer advice, to teach, that kind of thing. But when we try to internalize, to make sense of our life, to make decisions out of that and discount our, like the physical body, it can get us into trouble. So the symptoms of this are overthinking everything, mental anxiety, depression, and really trying to hold on to become mentally certain about life. Human design is the dance of trusting your body in your life, because your body knows more than the mind when it comes to taking, like, their response of taking care of ourselves. So this can also be obsessive or addictive thinking, and also really holding on to concepts that don't serve us. So I have an open mind, and obviously I loved playing with concepts in human design. And I got to a point where I was so full and so saturated that my body was like, I need to stop or I'm gonna go crazy. So I stopped, and then I came back with a new open mind and was able to process it totally different. So here it's, if you have an open mind, you may recognize that you literally can pick up on what people are thinking sometimes, or you may lose track of stuff or lose focus, need to write things down. But just to say, these symptoms and having openness is not necessarily a bad thing. You know, Einstein had an open mind. So it's not that you're not brilliant if you don't have that defined, but just make sure that it's not taking over your life and making all your decisions. Healy programs that I would recommend, obviously mental balance, and the learning systems, and the activation and positive thoughts. So anything, I would also recommend this feel good system for the spleen, because sometimes the spleen can feel really depleted, you know, the immune system. So the feel good system can really fill that in. Now, last but not least, we could talk about this guy forever, is the solar plexus, which is our emotional intelligence. And this is our emotional wave frequencies. So the biological function of this is the nervous system, the kidneys, the lungs. So I think we could all probably think back to a time when we felt really nervous or emotionally overwhelmed. You know, it changes the way that we breathe, and our nervous system, when we get really you know, feel that that physical nervousness. So the solar plexus is basically how we experience a full spectrum of emotions, moods, and sensitivities. Now, the symptoms of this, if you have a defined emotional center, it means that you have a way that you process a certain frequency of emotions. It's best to ride out that wave, wait for clarity, and make decisions when you feel clear and you're not really high or down on your wave. So some symptoms of this, if it's open, if it's undefined, it means you're taking and you're amplifying the emotions of other people, whether that's for good or bad. So, you know, it's great if you're around somebody that's in a great mood and then you feel twice as good. Sometimes it can be physically painful to be around, you know, really heavy stuff, having an open emotional center. So the symptoms are experiencing fears and nervousness. The biggest one is avoiding confrontation and truth, avoiding emotional confrontation to avoid pain, because it sucks. Anybody with an open emotional center will tell you that they'd probably rather avoid emotional confrontation sometimes. On the flip side, the wisdom of it is to have the wisdom of when something is worth confronting or not. This can make us feel unsafe in the world, and not wanting to rock the boat. So kids with open emotional centers can be very touchy and nervous and not want to rock the boat because they don't want to emotionally upset their parents or the people around them. Another symptom could be making highly charged emotional decisions without waiting for clarity. So the rule of thumb is if you're feeling super emotional, just sleep on it. And when you sleep on it, that chemistry is going to change and you'll have more clarity the next day. And another symptom, the shadow symptoms of this are chaos, crisis, friction, and turbulence. Sounds fun, isn't it? So here we have the different wave frequencies, which we don't have too much time to go into right now, unless you guys have specific questions about it. But each one of these gates or traits is literally vibrating out a specific frequency wave of emotions. And this is a great way to understand your own emotional frequency, and also how we connect electromagnetically in partnerships, the kind of emotional experiences we have. And there's a lot more I could say about that, but that's a little graph there. And then I would recommend for emotional center, obviously, if you are emotionally undefined.
I'm sorry, can you please show the last slide one more time? I want to take a screenshot. Thank you.
There you go. So if you have a undefined emotional center, I highly recommend the bioenergetic defense programs for that protection. Just general energetic shielding if you feel hypersensitive. Subtle protection is influences of other people. We have the emotional well-being soul. The contentment systems I think are great for the emotional stuff, because a lot of times with emotions, when we try to avoid them, we can try to cope or medicate, you know, with different substances, food, alcohol, smoking, you know, all the things to try to help regulate our nervous system. So the contentment systems can really help with the symptoms that come with that. And because it's connected to the lungs, I would say the lung meridians and also the nerve meridian and anything involving like balance nerves and things like that. So I know I talked about a lot and I went through it kind of quickly. We could sit and digest a lot of this for a while. So I wanted to open it up for some Q&A. I think we have a couple minutes left, and then I will share a little offering with you guys.
I have a question.
Mhm.
So I have my chart in front of me, and in every one of my, what are they called?
The centers.
The centers. Every one of the centers has like a number lit up.
Mhm.
Then I have one center with no numbers lit up. So what do the numbers mean?
So the numbers are, they're called gates in human design. The easiest way to remember is it's a trait that we have. It's a personality trait. Now, when just one of them is activated, it means that you have a trait that can be flexible based off your environment and who you link up with in relationships. When you have a full line, it means that you have the full, like if you have two numbers between two centers, it means that you have a life force channel that is lighting up and coloring in those two centers, and that's what makes it consistent. So having a trait in a center, it's going to flavor how you experience that center. And if you have a center with no gates at all, it's just kind of like a wide open window. So you can kind of, you have kind of full range on how you experience that theme. Does that make sense?
A little. A little. I know it's a lot to learn in a little tiny minute here.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah, the difficulty putting this together was trying to make it simple because we
I'm
could
sure.
talk very, very long about each one. Yeah. Anybody have any other questions?
Devon, what about the waves that you had with the emotional center, the waves, the 4 different wave patterns? I know that you said it's kind of complicated, but it was interesting the way that some were kind of on an angle and some were kind of swirling. Like, can you tell us like in general what that means?
Sure. So if you look at your, so for example, like I have an open emotional center, but I have like a bunch of gates activated. So that was Trisha, that was your question. It was like, what does it mean when you have like little numbers activated in your centers, right? So I have a bunch of like activations in my emotional center, but I don't have a defined emotional center. So what can happen is like, you know, for example, if Chris and I are working together and we create an emotional wave together, we're going to co-create that experience. Or, you know, in relationship with John, for example, we create 3 different waves together, right? So when we look at the different colors here, like the 30 and the 36 are creating a crash roller coaster wave. So it builds and builds up expectation and desire. Once it has that experience where the expectation is hit or not, it crashes. So it's this roller coaster kind of wave of up and down. The 55 and 22 or more passionate and emotional waves, they can seem the most stable. And they're kind of like chilling, and then they kind of spike up and then they kind of spike down. And this is kind of rooted in like passion and music and that kind of thing. The 37 and the 49 are both tribal, meaning it's all about like support and partnership and family and that kind of thing. And this is a ratcheting and explosive wave. This basically builds and builds and builds, and then it explodes. So think about like a kitchen sink fight where you think everything's fine, and then all of a sudden, you know, your partner didn't do the dishes and you freak out, and it seems like it's a freak out over nothing, but it's because that wave has been building and building and building till it relieves itself. It's also like, if you think of ecstatic dance, you know, it's like you're building, 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 and then boom, you kind of have that like ecstatic moment, you know, it's not all bad. And then the 6 is the most kind of stable wave, and it's kind of like a stable kind of wave that is about intimacy. So, you know, I could talk a lot more about that, but does that like help what I was just?
Yeah, it actually does. So if it's I mean, I'm undefined in the emotional center. But then if I have a line that is defined going up to it, and then it's highlighted, like the 49 is defined for me, then will I experience more of that? Is that?
Yeah. And like, so I have the 19 on the other end. So you and I would create that life force. We would
Oh, I
create
see.
that frequency together. So,
Oh.
or the way, like, say, somebody in your life is defined, right? When you're absorbing that wave, this is how you process it.
Okay.
That's how it's flavored.
And the
Yeah.
49 is what again? What does the 49
It's the
mean?
ratcheting, and it's the builds and releases. So it's all about, the 49 is all about like family bargains, our tribe, the kind of agreements that we make, that kind of thing. Yeah. Mhm.
Fascinating. Gosh, so fascinating.
Yeah, I love talking about the waves. I'm telling you, I did a 2-hour workshop just on the emotional centers. It was super fun. And I think it's one of the most important ones.
I have a question. So on here, there's red lines, there's black lines, there's red and black lines, and there's
Yep. So the black is our conscious personality. It's the time when we were born. It's where the planets were exactly when you were born. So we're aware of it. It's like who we think we are. The red is the unconscious. It was about 3 months before you were born. And the easiest way to think of the red is it's like our blood. It's in there. It's giving us life, but we don't always know what the hell is going on, you know? So the red is the unconscious. And a lot of times people in our life recognize it about us more than we do sometimes. Yeah.
and the black and red.
So it just means you have both. You have an imprint on both conscious and unconscious. Yeah.
Okay.
So before I forget, here are my social media. Stay connected with me. I have a ton of free content about human design on my YouTube. It's just my name, Devon Martin. You can also find it through my Instagram. And on my Instagram, I write more about human design. And on YouTube, I share more. And then I have, if you are interested in human design, you can go to my website. You can email me. If there's anybody here that is also interested in learning more about Healy, you can email me. And then for anybody here, if you want to learn more about your aura type, your inner authority, the centers, relationship dynamics, like all that good stuff that we didn't get to talk about today, you can use the coupon code Solstice to get 25% off on my course. So you can find that on my website, or you can send me an email. Or maybe I'll be able to put a link to it or something. It's a great self-study at-home course. But now that I'm sharing again, who knows what I'll be sharing again, but that is a kind of like a staple. It's called the Foundations of Human Design, where you really get a framework of kind of how to put everything together. Yeah, I think I did the timing right? Are we
That
at time?
was
You did.
amazing.
That was
so amazing.
unbelievable, Devon. We just want
And-
more. We want more.
And I'm so excited to say that you're part of the Vibe Tribe, because
know.
we're going to have you on our team calls, and people, there's many reasons why somebody would want to be a part of the Vibe Tribe, but to soak up this like information is definitely a reason. So thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
So amazing.
You
Does,
did great.
does anyone else have any other questions before we?
I'm sure there's a million.
Yeah,
questions.
I think we have like 3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah, we have a few more minutes.
So does the we're about to go into this 12-week deep dive. Are there certain organs that go with certain centers?
Yeah, so like, the lungs are in with the emotional center. The G center is like our liver. So like the sense of self, is like, right, we say there's a kind of some saying about like our identity, and when we drink alcohol, because the liver is connected to our identity in human design. Yeah, I did some of them with the 3 that I covered. But yeah. And then the root center is like the adrenal glands. And yeah.
Very cool.
That is so cool.
Any other questions? All right.
If you want to stop your share, Devon, there you go.
Thank you so much, Devon.
Gosh, that was
You're welcome. Do I need to change it back to you guys, or do you do that?
Yes. Do you know how to do that?
The
3 dots by my name. If you go up next to me.
Okay, got it.
Mm-hmm. We do have a few more minutes before Mark comes on, so do you want to take a break? Sure. Let's see.
Well, who do we have on here? Let's just say
Yeah.
hello to everyone.
Yeah.
Got Devon and
Yes.
Trisha and Robin and Dee
Yeah.
and
I'm
Linnell
so
all the
glad-
way over
yeah,
at
Linnell from Australia.
And I think is Rita still on? Rita from Norway.
Yeah.
Melora, hello. Brittany.
I have my sister from California.
How many people have watched a good amount of today? Kristen and I, we had this, I'm so happy, Trisha. We had this amazing idea and it's been incredible, but like, we didn't realize how much energy it would be, we would be taking in. It's like drinking from a fire hose.
I was thinking about that earlier because it's like, especially as a projector, Ashley, it's like, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, I passed out during yin yoga.
She did.
Oh no, I was
I'm
like, I don't know.
hearing.
I mean, I wasn't even there like live doing it all, but I was like, I can't sit through a whole day, but I'm excited for the recordings. The ones that
Yeah. No, Kristen was like, okay, it's time for the
Time,
next
come
one. I was
on.
like, wait, where are we?
She's a projector, so she doesn't have as much energy as a generator, and I'm a manifesting generator, so I can just keep going. I have a little bit more energy to keep going. Not to say that anyone is better than the other, but it is interesting.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, well, basically you have a consistent way that you process and generate that's like consistent for you, right? So for Ashley, it's like inconsistent. So when she teams up with you, it's like the projector's role is to help guide and to manage and help that energy become more efficient. So that's why the two types are here to work together, you know. But Ashley, you know, projectors can definitely get really burnt out with the open sacral. Super fun.
Super fun.
Yeah, and it's just so neat that Devon was the first person that came to the Landberg Loft. You brought Devon here for the first workshop, and we learned about human design. And then the three of us were just saying, how could we work together? How could we just bring more of this?
That was November 2019.
2019.
Yeah.
And then
a year later, Healy happens, and then right. I was like,
yeah, you brought
Yep.
Healy to us. You brought Healy to Ashley, and then she brought it to me.
yeah, wow, it's cool to look back and see how much has evolved since then. I just like how like my work was always integrating all the different systems and stuff, and one of the limitations with human design is like they didn't really want too much integrated with it to kind of keep it as, you know, so that's why I took a break with it. But I love that just so much can be integrated, you know, and that's why it's like human design is one system of looking at it, but there's so many other ways, you know, and we're all kind of called to our system. We're all kind of called to like a certain modality that makes sense to us. So including Healy.
You know, we have one more minute, and I know that there's some really sensitive people, open people on this call. What, like, can you just quickly talk about your experience with Healy? Because I know that it was a lot for you. Like some people try Healy for the first time, microcurrent for the first time, and they can turn it all the way up to 100 and have no problem. Some people like you, they get to like 5% and they're like, oh my God, like I need to turn it down. So
Yeah,
can you
well,
talk about like the progression?
yeah, like I can do 100 now, but like, you know, I mean, just to like paint a picture of my bioenergetic field, when I got the Healy, like I was whacked because I was in another country stranded during the pandemic. And like, I mean, I felt blessed that I was in Bali because it wasn't the worst place to be, but like the amount of stress of, you know, that global crisis going on and then landing home and the environmental change. And then I got really ill and I started a panic attack. So the culmination of the trauma that I experienced at that time, Healy came in like an angel, but my field, I was so oversensitive to the point where like the microcurrent would actually hurt me sometimes. And I was just so freaked out. Like it was hard for me to like receive it at first. So I really liked the protection programs because I felt like that was really closing up like my shattered energetic space, because at the time I was very much in the public eye. There was a lot of people watching what I did with my work, and I was feeling it. It was coming into my field, you know, and then there's the pandemic and then family stuff. So my field was just really had taken such a hit, you know, and I was doing a lot of my own work, But for me, what helped was the protection programs at first, because it wasn't the direct microcurrent, and it was able to like kind of help me shift and get a little bit healthier. And then kind of over time, I just trusted my body. Like, I don't think I'm somebody that will use Healy every day, all day, but sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. So my practice is like, when my body says no, I listen to it. And when I feel open to it, I use it. I also found that the resonance scans were way more in alignment with me in the beginning, because they were gentle, but it was still working on my field. So does that help?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I just know specific people that are on like the Facebook live that are
Yeah.
having that situation.
Yeah, so I did I will always, my favorites will always be like the residence and the coaching program, because for me, like, I'm so sensitive that I feel it. Like, even though most people could say, oh, I don't feel anything coming out of that scan, like when you vibrate it, like I can. And I've noticed the shifts, and because of my sensitivity, like I've even been told with my sensitivity, like not to go to the chiropractor because it'll be like too jarring, but to do like other stuff more gentle. So I don't have issues with my current now, because my body is a lot stronger than it was a couple years ago. I think it was just like probably the sickest I've ever been in my life when I got the Healy. But I'm much stronger now, so I don't have any issues with it. But I would say stick with protection, or get the coil, or just do other things and build up that strength, and then you'll be able to handle the microcurrent a lot more. So I hope that helps. Yeah.
It does.
It does
Thank
help.
you.
It really does. Yeah. Yeah, we're all so different, and we just have to, it's about honoring your body, right? Just really paying attention to.
Yeah. And I think sometimes, like some of us healers, like we can be masochists. It's like, we just want more healing, more healing, more healing. Like, let's pull it out. Let's do this. Let's do this.
Yeah.
And I was like that. And I got to the point where it was like, I did so much transformational work that my body was like, don't touch me. Don't
Mhm.
put the coils on me. I don't want any more. So I think with our sensitivity, sometimes we just have to trust, like, the body just knows how to do its thing. And sometimes we don't need that extra stimulation, whether that's a massage or it's the Healy, so just to trust that. Yeah.
Great words of advice. I think we can all agree with that for sure.
Well, thanks so much for having me, guys. I'm gonna take a little break and then jump onto Mark's call in a little bit.
Just